Welcome back. Third episode of the Saturdays in South Carolina podcast. Randy Cambites, Bryce Jeffcoat back again with you. Another victorious week for our South Carolina Gamecocks. Got the win over the South Carolina State Bulldogs in a matchup that got started way later than anybody in that stadium would have liked. But at the end of the day, very good result for our Gamecocks.
At the end of the day, the Carolina Gamecocks are now 2-0 heading into SEC play. So they left with what they came for. Might not have been pretty, especially at first, but they ended up finding their stride.
So being in that stadium during the weather delay was an absolute madhouse. That was a game I definitely won't forget anytime soon. Around 6:30, all's good. Walking into the stadium, get ready to go to our seats for all the pregame fanfare. All of a sudden, game's delayed. Starts raining. 20,000 of our closest friends and Gamecock fans packed into the concourse on the upper deck level where our season tickets are. That was an absolute madhouse, but it was a good time. Carolina fans kept the vibes high. Student section was outstanding, surviving through that storm, and ended up being like I said, that probably had a little bit to do with the slow start.
Could have.
But yeah, definitely not what I don't think Gamecock fans wanted to see out of our offense. Uh, four straight games now where the offense has scored 17 points. Of course, the scoring was heavily aided by, the player of the season so far through two games, Vakari Swain, returning two punts in one game. I don't know when the last time that's been done for the Gamecocks, if ever.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that sounds like something that has not been done.
Yeah, I think he tied the school record for punt returns in the season already. And we'll have to fact check that, but yeah, he's just electric, and it's something that our offense sorely needed at the time is to get that little boost. And unfortunately, left the game injured, but for this Saturday, I don't imagine that being a problem for the Vanderbilt game. But we'll go ahead and now that we've kind of given the brief overview and thoughts on that game, we'll dive deep a little bit on that game. So you got the Bakari Swain
I
confirmation?
have a fun set.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Kind of comical.
Okay, yeah.
All right, this is what the AI overview comes from
Yeah.
with the first Google. So it says that yes, Bakari Swain returned 2 punts for the Gamecocks.
Yeah.
And this accomplishment makes him the first player in FBS history with 2 punt return touchdowns in a single game
Really?
since Penn State's Daquan Hardy in 2023.
Okay. All right. I love that.
That's so. Why would they word it like
Yeah,
that?
why?
Oh man.
Well, still very impressive. First time in a couple of years that somebody's returned two in one game, back-to-back punt returns, and the second one probably had no business even, go and pick that ball up. But he still decided because he was a hot hand at the time to go get his hands on it. And a guy coming out of high school that was listed as an athlete, a guy that could play both ways, but he was pretty clearly a corner prospect for I think everybody recruiting him. A guy who coming down to his recruitment, it looked like there was a chance Coach Prime might get him to flip to Colorado, but a guy who Gamecock fans at the moment, or always, he's always been a good player for a couple of years, but especially now are very, very happy that he's in the Garden of Black.
There you go.
And I assume he'll be back there for the rest of the season, and he's, that's just such a threat. Our special teams have been so good through two games, so that's something we can't really.
Did you expect anything less coming from the head coach?
Yeah, Beamer ball. The preseason expectation from one Hunter Beamer that Beamer ball was dying before his very eyes in a practice seemed to be a bit overblown, maybe a bit of an overreaction. Because Beamer ball is very much alive and well in South Carolina. Carried the day. Carried the offense on Saturday. A very, very slow start for the offense. Down 3-0 at the end of the first quarter to South Carolina State. It's never a spot you want to be in. Couple early drives that just didn't get anywhere going. Yeah, of course, started with not great field position inside of our own 10 on both of those drives, I believe. There was on the first drive, it might have been the first or second play, Lenore Sellers missed his second read, I believe, on a I don't know the read for the specific play, but had a wide open post over the middle of the field and just looked, skipped from one side of the field to the next flat and thinking of having to throw the ball away or maybe check down to an incompletion, and that's something that could have sparked the offense early on. But people are gonna, it may have been a heavy pressure that ended up coming on that play, and people will be like, "Oh, the offensive line gave him pressure again," but the ball should have been out downfield. So that was one thing I noticed early on.
Yeah, and maybe, and a lot of people too, it gets a little dicey because
Yeah,
when you get into certain looks, you have posts that are tagged
yeah,
as an alert. You get a certain look, and hey,
yeah,
that green lights the post, right?
yeah,
But if he wasn't getting that look pre-snap, then nothing in his mind would even tell him to look at it,
yeah,
And maybe they busted the covers on the back end, and that's just not something that you account for.
yeah,
He's already in his progression by the time this thing cuts loose, so you know.
yeah, for sure.
That's right.
So there, yeah, can't really say for certain on the outside. But that is something that I've seen flagged coming out of that game was people trying to pin that one on the Norse.
Mhm.
And it could have been,
Could be.
but it, like I said, that's something people don't always think about that you can point out to people as a offensive guy and 4-year quarterback in college and all that. So um, it was definitely slow. The Norse didn't. I wouldn't say he played a great game by any means.
Right.
It was very, very, we're not going to put Little Norris in a position to get hurt, obviously, against SC State. Thank goodness we didn't need him to play Superman like we did a little bit against Virginia Tech. Um, it's something where the offensive line, we got Shed Surratt, we talked about in our last episode. Really wanted to see Shed Surratt, and other than one blatant whiff he had that really kind of derailed a play on a pass play, I thought he blocked pretty well, and that kind of cleaned up some of the pass blocking for the offensive line. Still wasn't perfect or great by any means, and obviously you look at SC State's a very good FCS school, a very good MEAC school, but they're not anywhere near a FBS, Power Five level school. So you do want to consider the opponent, but the pass blocking did look much better. So that's something to take into the Vanderbilt game, and um, now the focus for the offense has turned to the run game. People aren't happy with the run game now, and Rasul Faison didn't get a whole lot to do, and Oscar Adway got a short touchdown, but other than that, didn't get a whole lot to do, and that's something where through 2 games, what have you seen with the run game to make you think one way for the rest of the season through 2 games? What conclusion have you drawn when you're looking ahead to Vanderbilt? What do you expect from our run game?
Absolutely. Well, the biggest problem right now when it comes to run game, it's who can
Yeah,
cover gaps faster, right? How
yeah,
can we get leverage to create gaps? How can a defense plug gaps? How can they plug gaps and be, gap sound, playing gap integrity? So, and what we're being weaker. We've been the weaker front the past
yeah,
2 games, and that's kind of tough saying. Past 2 games
yeah,
after playing against SC State. Not that we were physically weaker, we just played that way,
yeah.
to where we can't establish an aggressive, steady run game. And I can't see it taking leaps and bounds going into SEC play the way it's going right now. So it is frightening. It's frightening to see if we can, be able to run the ball dominantly. What I do look forward to, what I foresee us doing the most is completely transitioning into some spread triple to where there's
Yeah.
3 level reads as to where we can get the ball. We're going to have to leave people unblocked to get extra linemen in on plays. We're going to have to lean a lot more on Lenoris to make the right decision and be a running guy. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be the situation that we're put in.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of South Carolina fans are hoping for. So, not going to spend a whole lot of time on South Carolina State just because, it was what it was. Offense didn't look great. Special teams did. Jerron Willis got a touchdown for the defense, which was major because he got the key block in that Virginia Tech on the punt return. So it was nice to see him kind of get a little reward with a nice little touchdown scamper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming out of that game, Shane Beamer immediately the post-game press conference Saturday night, which really was early Sunday morning, said the injury situation was, the injury list was way longer than he would have liked for it to be, and it was something that he didn't even want to go into the full list. It was just too many names, and thankfully Sunday evening's teleconference came out, and much better news. Said he was real optimistic that everybody who was on his list is going to be able to play this weekend, other than Brady Hunt, who is a key part of our offense. He said Brady Hunt was the only guy who was going to have to undergo more tests, and we'll probably get more on that. I don't think we got anything from him today on Brady Hunt. All we got today was that everything's still optimistic for everybody and doesn't expect there to be too many guys on the injury report. Now we're into SEC play. There will have to be 3 injury reports, I believe. I think we get one tomorrow, one, or maybe there's 4. We get one tomorrow at 8, one Thursday at 8. I think we get one Friday, and then we get one 90 minutes before the game. So you can't really hide those things like you used to be able to in college football, at least not in the SEC. So
Right.
we'll see what the injury report looks like tomorrow. But all things considered, it looks like the Gamecocks are gonna have close to a fully healthy roster starting SEC play, which is major considering Vicari Swain left the game early. Judge Collier didn't play at all, and JT Gear didn't play at all, which he was really, really good in that Virginia Tech game. So, fingers crossed for Brady Hunt that he'll be able to play. But all things considered, it looks like we're coming into this Vandy matchup pretty healthy.
Yeah, which is is going to be very important because I truly believe we're going to have our hands full.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to have our hands full. We saw what they did opening up, their game one. Clark Lee has these guys playing with confidence, which is huge for that Vandy squad. And, we can't come back on on our heels.
Yeah.
Or we're going to end up on our back.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll move forward. I know it was kind of a short little recap of South Carolina State. It's just that we're already on Tuesday when we're recording this, and all eyes have turned to SEC play. So it's a real exciting time. I understand South Carolina State games. They have to happen, for those smaller football programs. But man, I have circled the Vanderbilt game for a long time. I felt really confident that we'd beat Virginia Tech, but of course, I felt really good about the South Carolina State game. So I love going into games with kind of that pit in my stomach, that nervousness. Is like, you know what, you simulate this 1,000 times. You're gonna have a lot of scenarios where we don't come out on top.
Sure.
It's not. You play South Carolina State 1,000 times. Carolina beats them 999 probably. But this is a game where you wake up on Saturday and you're thinking about it all day. You're thinking, is South Carolina gonna be able to handle business against Vanderbilt? And it builds the tension for the environment. And it's a game that 16, or I think it's 16 at the moment, trying to make it 17 times in a row. We have handled our business against Vanderbilt. We have beat them 16 times in a row. And it's, that the streak matters, but it doesn't really matter. What does, as a guy who has played college football and who coaches ball, what do those historic streaks mean when you're inside a building?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, it carries a lot of mental weight.
Yeah.
And Coach Saban is really good about when he describes hearing outside noise and calls it rat poison. Listen to the rat poison. And the biggest focus for these guys is making them understand that the only game that matters in that record is the next one, the one they're about to play. So if you can have those guys believing that and focusing on that, then, it's whatever. The record can be about the fans. The fans can make it whatever they want to be. It's all about being able to focus on the game coming up and tune all of that out, put it in the past, because that's exactly where it is. All right, that game that's been played and it's done. It has nothing to do with the game coming up, and unfortunately with a lot of, youthful players. And you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
In today's college football, you'll get 18 to 26-year-olds.
Yeah, of course.
You're dealing with guys that it affects them. It affects them mentally. They feel the pressure, and it's impossible to not think about it.
Yeah.
But the most disciplined team mentally is going to come out on top.
Yeah, and that's I think Shane Beamer it does a real good job controlling his culture. He talks about building a good culture inside that program, and that was a big thing with Mark Stoops in Kentucky a couple years ago. Was what is cool for the moment versus what is actually something we're building to the future. And Mark Stoops at that point was like, hey, they're flashing the pan. We've been doing this, and now you look at that a couple years down the line, it's like, who really was, South Carolina's, we feel pretty good about ourselves right now. And Shane Beamer's got himself a real good thing going. And I don't think the 16 game in a row streak is going to be a thought in the mind of South Carolina players this week. And it may, maybe I'm getting a completely wrong read on that, but I don't think it'll play any mental effect on our boys.
Yeah, and I agree with you because I think everyone understands that this is a new Vandy. It's a new Vandy era.
It's not Vandy. It's not. It's not
It's
the
a
same
new
Vandy,
era. I do believe that we still have the best player on offense and defense on the field
absolutely.
with Lenore Sellers and Dylan Stewart. I do think we out athlete them still.
Yeah.
It's not like the disparity has been just completely, the gap has been completely closed. I think we're a much better football team.
Yeah.
But anything happens in college football, especially a team that's rolling and playing with confidence.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of confidence on both sides of this game.
Yeah.
It's almost Vanderbilt, as much as we talk about them, they're rolling, and they still lost 6 games last year.
Absolutely.
So it's not like they went out and James Franklin, Vanderbilt was 10-2, and they were really high level, and so it's not like they've reached new heights for the program,
Right.
But it does feel different.
It
feels different, and it's a lot of it has to do with they've got their guy. I think a head coach. I love Clark Lee. If you watch the Netflix SEC, any given Saturday series. It's impossible not to come away with that just, believing that Clark Lee has Vanderbilt going in the right direction. It almost feels like he's their guy. He's a Vanderbilt alum. I don't think even if, Alabama were to come knocking and say, hey, come save us. We don't think we're going in the right direction. I think he'd tell them no and stay at Vandy. And he's got a quarterback that matches. That it was exactly what he needed in the time of this rebuild, where it's to get Vandy where they needed to be. You got a guy who's got a little bit of Johnny Manziel in, not the level of player Johnny was,
right?
But he's got the swagger, he's got the attitude, and he's not afraid to show it. And not too many times he hasn't backed it up.
Yeah, Pavia is a baller. He's a gamer. And he does compliment Clark Lee very well.
Yeah.
Clark Lee's come in and, it's all about switching around the mentality of the program.
Yeah.
Watching the SEC documentary, we're able to understand kind of his whole focus is the mental shift of them believing that they can do it. That's the whole way to change this program.
Yeah.
And then you have a quarterback in here that knows that he can play and believes in his teammates that they can play. And then, that breeds winning.
Yeah, he almost, the chip that was on Diego Pavia's shoulder, he almost was able to come in because he's small guy, always been overlooked. He was able to come in and almost translate that. Clark Lee has the chip on his shoulder, and to have a quarterback who also has a chip, you almost can translate that to everybody else. But hey, we all got a chip on our shoulder. We're overlooked, and I mean they've been very confident going back to the off season. Diego Pavia was on Bussin' with the Boys with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton, and they asked him what game we have circled, and he said week 3 against South Carolina, and I think between that you got the offensive lineman Bryce Henderson said that nobody really talks about Vanderbilt. This is his quote: "Nobody really talks about the Commodores. I think after we go in there and show these guys what's what, I think people are going to open their eyes up a little bit. All we know is we're going to play our football, and we know that we can beat them, and we're going to go in there and do it." So this is a game that Vanderbilt, it's almost like in this rebuild, this is like their next hurdle is we have to get this monkey off our back because they've lost us 16 times in a row. You go back to the greatest years of their program's history, they still 10-2. One of the two was South Carolina. Even it just overlapped our height as a program, overlapped their height.
Right.
It's just a monkey that's on their back, and I think for them to fully to become the program that they want to become, you can't have this losing streak hanging off of you to South Carolina. So I think that's why this game may be a big deal to them. On top of it just being the first SEC game after what was a big momentum building year, but for it to be a team that's beat you 16 times in a row, I think that it's a big. I don't want to say it's like their Super Bowl, but it is like when they make their goals for this season, specifically beat South Carolina's on there.
Yeah, and that always does go one of two ways.
Yeah.
And when you can blow things out of proportion, the game becomes bigger than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Which I really do have a bad feeling about Vanderbilt and the way that they've built up to this game.
Yeah.
Diego going on there and saying that about this game. And as far as the Carolina aspect of it, I really haven't seen anything from our guys.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to go in there hungry. But I also think we're going to go in there with a ton of swag when the game starts playing. I think we're going to put it on them. I really do.
Yeah.
I think they're a little too high.
Okay.
And I think it's going to bite them. I do. I
Yeah.
really, really do. It's easy to say I'm nervous.
Yeah.
Which I am.
Oh
They're
yeah.
a team playing with confidence. But when I really take a step back and look at the way the two teams are preparing, and I say preparing, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not with them
Of
at
course.
practice.
Yeah.
But publicly,
Yeah.
the way these games are being built up to, I got to side with South Carolina,
Yeah.
and in public preparation, got to go with the Gamecocks.
Yeah. Pregame, I do think that the Gamecocks have had the advantage. They haven't really, commented on any of the quotes. They've been asked about it, and they just, like, hey, we're focused on us. They're saying the right things. And it is. I mean, Vanderbilt understands the gravity of the situation. They had some of their reporters put out today that they were practicing. This is the direct quote. Vanderbilt had South Carolina's walkout song "Sandstorm" playing during practice, which goes. Vanderbilt they haven't always had a whole lot of media up there focused on football, so people may not know around there that our walkout song is not "Sandstorm." It is 2001: A Space Odyssey. "Sandstorm" is just a song that we play a lot when we're playing good football. But that's okay. We'll forgive the reporters for saying the wrong thing. But they understand the environment they're walking into.
Mm-hmm.
Tickets to this game, the minimum get-in price is $200. That's to sit in the nosebleeds by yourself. That's solo tickets. And part of that is because South Carolina fans like when their team's good. We are a fan base that is absolutely rabid if you give us anything to be excited about, and we've got it. You mentioned that we have Lenore Sellers, who's still a top 5 Heisman candidate, and Dylan Stewart, maybe the best defensive end in the country. A team that's 2-0, won 8 of our last 9, or I guess, is it 9 of the last 10 now? I think it's still 8 of the last 9. It's going to be Parents Weekend, so all the students are going to be there with their parents. It's going to be one of the best atmospheres you're going to get all year. And because we know, you look at our schedule before our bye week, you have this game, Missouri, and Kentucky left.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 3 teams, Vanderbilt's the one that we'll be the most nervous about just because we know that they want us so bad.
Absolutely.
But preseason, Mizzou was not thought to be as good as they maybe are now.
Yeah.
So, but for the time being, this is up until the bye week. This is our biggest game at home for sure. So, real excited for this one. We'll do a quick. Obviously, we already talked about Diego Pavia. He's the guy to watch. He's a real good ball player.
Yeah.
I don't know who a comp would be. He has the swagger like Johnny Manziel. Not quite as good of a quarterback as Johnny, but a really good improviser. Good scrambling, good on the run.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a comparison to kind of Baker and kind of how that swag and play style, chippiness. He's going to lower his shoulder through a run. And come up throwing up first down signals and stuff like that. So I do see a lot of Baker on him, who is my favorite college quarterback of all time. And I respect Poppy a lot. And I think he's a gamer and a baller. But
I do. I have a lot of respect for Diego Pavia, and that's why so nervous. A good quarterback like that can flip a game. So you got him. You got his guy Eli Stowers, who is his tight end, wide receiver, one of the top 5 tight ends in the game, maybe even number 1. There's some guys who maybe you're talking NFL draft wise are a little bit higher up the board than him. But if you're talking what kind of production am I going to get this Saturday, there's not many better than Eli Stowers. He's his guy. He followed him from New Mexico State to Vandy.
And that becomes extremely problematic, especially with our linebackers and the way they've been in coverage.
Yeah.
These past 2 games, we've given up some deep balls across the middle, some digs that we haven't been able to carry very well. So, I mean, an elusive ball catching tight end is going to give us problems.
And you got guys like Jalen Kilgore who have been out, who should be back. That may help as a bigger nickel safety guy. He may be able to help a little bit there at linebacker, because J.R. Johnson hadn't really shown. He had a great pick in week 1, but in terms of grabbing a guy and guarding him man up, he hadn't had to do a whole lot of that.
Right.
And we saw just a minute ago watching the highlights. Okoronkwo gave up a pass he probably should have deflected or defended against SC State, and Sean Murphy had some struggles himself in pass coverage in the Virginia Tech game. So from what we've seen so far, Sowers could be a real problem. Got a couple other guys, Quincy Skinner Jr., Um, he's a guy who has stepped up early on in the season for Vandy. Just looking back to their game against Virginia Tech last week, um, he was a guy who no idea. I completely lost him. I was trying to find his stats from last week, but they're completely gone. So I have no idea where they went. So we'll cut that, okay? Because I had his stats. Whatever.
Did he not play?
I guess not. I have no idea. Okay, whatever. All right. What were we talking about? His top players. You got guys like Trey Richardson, who led the team in receiving against Virginia Tech last week. He had 3 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. You also had Bryce Coleman, who is another tight end, opposite Eli Stowers, had a catch for 54 yards and a touchdown. So you got some more weapons. It's not just Stowers. They do spread the ball around. They had not 8 guys catch a ball against Virginia Tech, and they had 7 run the ball. Actually led by Diego Pavia with the most with 11 carries. So they spread the love around. They're not. You're not going to lock it on any one guy other than Stowers, and even then, he's not always going to be a statistical leader. So how does that, when you're game planning for a team, how is it? Is it more difficult to game plan when they don't have one standout guy in the backfield or in the receiving game?
Well, I think it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
Because you're able to continue to stick to whatever your philosophy is. When you go into a game that has a baller, like you're playing a guy like Jeremiah Smith, where you're going to have to tilt coverage that way, you have to start getting good at something that's not your base thing.
Yeah.
So when you're playing teams that keep it spread out, they throw it to guys that are open, you kind of can focus on your defensive scheme as a whole, making sure that you're being, keeping your integrity to your specific assignment. So I think it's easier that they don't have a standout guy. But at the same time, if they're playing extremely disciplined, I always feel like the offense has the upper hand, because being able to be the last one with the pencil when it comes to do we have the answer behind the fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and like I said, they do have, like I said, we're saying like they don't have a standout guy. They do have Stowers, but he isn't you're not game planning for him like a Jeremiah.
Right.
He is a matchup problem, but he is not, we're going out and we're completely tailoring our defensive game plan around what he can do. Our defensive ends have been so good that it allows our defensive ends, our edge rushers like Dylan Stewart, who's been excellent through 2 games, and Brian Thomas Jr., who we even flirted with the idea of projecting him to have more sacks than Dylan Stewart by the end of the year, and did go as far as to say he'll be all conference, which I think still holds. And even JT Gear, who didn't get to play in week 2 against SC State, but looked great in week 1 against South Carolina or against Virginia Tech. It allows them to be real nuisance off the edge. And what do you think? They're all really athletic guys. How do you think that will impact Diego Pavia's ability to do his thing and be an improviser and to get outside of the pocket and pick up yards?
Well, what I worry about is the fact that we're going to bring 5 and drop our guys, to try to get matchup wise, to try to maybe bracket some inside guys or rely on secondary to get back and make plays. If Diego's able to get through that first rush, I think he can do a lot of damage against us with his legs, and that goes for any rushing quarterback. So it's not like that's some new concept.
Yeah.
But again, I'm a big philosophy of having to get pressure with 4 to be an incredibly successful defense, which I think we can do. If we can do that early, then I have the utmost confidence that we can shut them down on offense.
Yeah, and we have as good of an edge rush combo as anybody could ask for between JT Gear, who looked really good, and Brian Thomas Jr. opposite for Dylan Stewart. Where maybe going with 4 is an option. Base defense out of a 4-2-5. Our DBs have looked fine. They've looked good. Judge Collier should be back so that Bakari Swain can play. He's good at corner. Judge Collier is probably a step better at the moment, leave the car swing. Yeah, focus on return punts.
There you go.
Step in when we need to. But
As far as the secondary, I was extremely disappointed when it came to SC State, seeing
yeah,
how many deep balls that we gave up that were uncontestable. That we
yeah,
weren't. It's not like we were there tackling the corner. We were giving up deep balls.
yeah.
So that's a little frightening.
Yeah, and it is something even against Virginia Tech where we were giving up. We were there to make the tackle.
Mm-hmm.
We were right there with them, but we did give up a deep ball. That's the one thing where I think we may have the advantage over Vandy. But you would think that same thing against Virginia Tech. They don't have a true number one X receiver.
Yeah.
That maybe we'd be able to lock them up a little bit more, but obviously that wasn't the case, and so that may be something to watch. Some explosive plays. They didn't give up a sack against Virginia Tech. Obviously, I do take our defense a little bit over theirs. But we'll flip sides of the ball now that we talked about South Carolina and how we think their defense will fare against Vanderbilt. You're an offensive guy. You've seen this South Carolina offense through 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings on this offense going into the Vanderbilt game, and what do you expect to happen in this game?
All right. So as far as feel, going from what we've seen so far, disappointed in the fact that there are a lot of question marks
Yeah.
still going into week 3, going into SEC play, question marks as to can we be a 200-yard rushing team,
Yeah.
even if we were to commit to it. And I'm not sure if that's the case right now. If we were to commit to running the ball, I don't know if we could get there or not. What I expect to see us do is I expect to see us come out how we opened the Virginia Tech game and be heavy RPO to where we're going gap scheme away from an X receiver from a single. So they're either gonna commit to having rotation into gap scheme strong side,
Yeah.
and leaving a one-on-one matchup that we can throw RPOs to, um, or they're going to have to play it, kind of play it even, and then we should be able to create numbers in the run game. So let's go in heavy RPO because I don't think we have as a straight-up run game.
Yeah.
So that's what we've done thus far.
Yeah.
And been successful. I expect that's what we're going to keep doing.
Yeah, that's what I feel like we almost have to threaten the RPO game with. You got guys, we have a ton of receivers. We also, I would say, don't have a true X receiver. We have a guy who could be, Nick Harper could be, and he has shown flashes like he did against Virginia Tech. But that threat, the threat to kind of generate a weaker defense against the run,
Yeah.
something that I think is going to be major for this week against Vandy. I think they're going to, even South Carolina State kind of, walk their safeties down. Virginia Tech safeties were maybe 10 yards off the ball a lot of times. They were real packed in tight, and just kind of it is our lack of taking shots downfield costing us in the run game.
Yeah, it is. And I think, but the situation that we get put in is that we don't have enough other guys that are really, really dynamic on the outside to free up those shots over the top, even when it comes to just pure pass game. I do think we need to take more, detailed and planned shots to try to alleviate some of that pressure. But I think that they're not leaving any safeties lower than what Nick Harbor's going to run, posts on, and that's kind of our biggest threat.
Yeah.
We talk about Nick Harbor. Unfortunately, he is not your ideal X. He's not quite shifty enough as a route runner to be a good X. He is a great guy that you can put on a post over the top of you running mesh, running some type of concept with that alert post, which without a doubt has its place in professional football.
Yeah.
A guy that can do that. So he is elite at that, which is really good to have. We just have to be better everywhere else for that to work.
Yeah.
So
you think it's instead of the pass game, the lack of pass game costing the run game, you may think it's the other way around?
It very much could be the other way around. The fact that we haven't established a solid run game, why would they ever get out of too high?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem I think that we face as an offense right now.
Okay. So it's I've seen a lot of takes on it, and that's one I don't know if I've seen that one yet. That we're just our lack of it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Our lack of a guy to keep them loose
Mm-hmm.
hurts us running the ball, and our lack of ability to run the ball against what we're getting. Why would they ever? Why would they ever give us some shots that we feel comfortable taking? So
Absolutely, and it's a big coordinator philosophy to where if people are going to sit in too high,
yeah,
you run the football.
yeah,
It's that simple to where I've been in offenses to where it says, hey, if you see two safeties,
yeah,
hand the ball off. There is no other read.
yeah,
We're in the run game,
yeah,
unless they start tilting and that type of stuff to when we start getting into post snap,
yeah,
all that type of stuff. So I'd like to go back and do a defensive analysis to see
yeah.
what we're getting on the back
I'm
end.
trying to think right now of us getting anything other than too high safety
And we're sitting here talking about how bad our run
in
game
either
is.
game right
That's a
now.
problem.
I can't think. I mean, I'm really gonna have to go back and deep dive it, but I don't think we got anything other than two high safety. We can't run the ball. So we ran for 122 or 125 yards against Vandy or against Virginia Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and that was we had a 30-yard chunk run. That first drive, Little Marcellus had a 20-yard scamper for a
Yep.
touchdown. So that's, outside of those two specific runs, like he
Mm-hmm.
ran for 75 yards. That's just not good. So it's definitely a concern. I don't think it's the talent. We know Oscar Adway's a real good running back. We got
Yeah.
four-star, five-star offensive linemen at every position. We've got a quarterback who could win the Heisman Trophy, could get drafted first overall if things
Yep.
continue to go his way. We've got one of the top transfer portal running backs who looks great when he gets the run. It's just interesting. Case and Henry.
It's execution all the way
It
around.
is.
So
And Case and Henry said in his availability today, that is our starting right tackle, that communication is just an issue across the offensive line. He said there were 6 or 7 plays in the SC State game where they just didn't get on the same page. And is that a little concerning for him to say there's 6 or 7 plays where in an SC State game he said he may have blamed the noise?
hmm.
Is that a little concerning to be this deep? We're playing ball games already. You would like for that stuff to be settled out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to be honest with you, it's unacceptable.
Yeah,
Actually, going into it, to have in a game like SC State, not to shame those guys, but in a
yeah.
game like SC State, you were there. You can't say it's one of the most electric crowds that we've ever had
No,
sitting in
no.
an SC State game, and we're talking about
Yeah,
noise being a problem
yeah,
as a communication level on the line. We can't
yeah,
run the ball, and we're not getting calls in. Like the fact that we're not getting calls at this level and at this stage, you can't tell me that it's not going to be more problematic
yeah,
in the SEC. It can only get worse.
yeah. That is,
So
yeah,
that's something that has to get fixed quickly. If
yeah.
that's what's happening up
Because
front,
it's going to be much louder.
it's going to only get a lot louder.
And most football fans are knowledgeable enough to kind of calm down when your offense is on the field. That's
Yeah.
Boaz
So
Stanley, who's our center, and Casey Henry said. They said it was tough to hear some of the calls on Saturday, and Casey Henry gave out the 6 to 7 numbers, which is just who's the. I mean, it's obviously you can't say for certain who's to
yeah.
blame,
Right.
but
Right.
who in an offense like that do you look at? Does it just you just look at the guy who's running the offense, and that's Lenore Sellers? Is the
Yeah.
blame there?
Well,
Or would you look at
see.
maybe the center?
Well, this is when it comes down to it, it is completely a 50-50 thing
Yeah,
to where it is Lenore's job to communicate what's being run, right? But there are so many offensive line calls that go into every single play that change their entire scheme, which is made by the center, also made by the tackles. They all make calls, that completely change the scheme. You get a walk-up defender to a certain look, and you get a push call from the tackle, that changes the scheme that they're doing. So if they're not on the same page of this right now,
yeah.
it has to be resolved quickly.
And yeah, so that was brought up to Shane Beamer actually, in his availability, and um, he did point to Boaz Stanley talking louder as the center. He said it's the same calls we've had for multiple seasons, so it's not like the guys don't know him. Casey
Right.
Henry's been here for several years.
Yeah.
Boaz Stanley is the only guy kind of in that situation who's new,
Mm-hmm.
but he said that there really is no excuse for that, and it's got to be the guy's got to be louder. Like that's unacceptable. That's just there's no reason. You mentioned it. There's no reason to not have your own calls clearly and for everybody to be on
And
the
I
same
guess
page.
what I really sense coming from that is that it's a confidence issue.
Yeah,
I think we're probably second guessing
yeah,
and not wanting to be wrong. Whenever you're second guessing and not being able to play full speed,
yeah.
it's detrimental. It's detrimental to the offense.
Could that be
not
something that causes the issues that we've seen.
Absolutely,
Thing.
him second guessing that call.
Yeah.
Naturally, a human reaction is to not be as loud.
Yeah.
Saying it.
Yeah, that's
so,
for sure.
I mean, that does, that makes perfect sense to me that, we're up there not trusting the looks that he's seeing, not wanting to be wrong, and giving a half-hearted call. So,
is that something that kind of gives you a little bit of hope that's an easy thing to clean up, that maybe could be something we fix in between this week and next week, since it's been brought up in public now?
Sure, yeah, but, at the same time, I think there's a lot of pressure on him to understand what he's seeing. So it's going to be completely how he reacts to it. Is he going to dive in film? Are we going to completely memorize these looks and know them better than anybody else on the field to be able to make the calls right? Or, are we going to go the same way that we've been studying things through two games, and we're struggling to get calls out? So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see come Saturday.
Yeah, and then so we'll break it down a little bit further, and then we'll go into our last kind of segment thing we want to do, and of course we'll pick this game before we get away from this. The run game we talked so much about it, the pass game. Donovan Murphy started on Saturday is the first of the freshmen. We talked a lot about the freshmen. He is the first of the freshmen to crack the starting lineup. Mm-hmm. Do you think that South Carolina has the weapons they need on offense? Including the offensive line, including Mike Shula as the play caller, which people are starting already to doubt Mike Shula. He's called plays for 4 games. According to some conspiracy theorists in the Gamecock fan base, he's been calling plays since before that. Which same thing for Dow Loggins. He called plays for Marcus Satterfield at one point as well. So there's always
easy to say.
Yeah, there's always conspiracy theorists that guys have taken over, and but the offense scored 17 points in his 4 games that we know he's been calling plays. With these weapons, with Mike Shula, who, as a Panthers fan, he was our offensive coordinator for our prime years with Cam Newton. Yeah. I've seen his offense. It can work. It can be great. Do you think that this offense this season, and specifically Saturday, can take a step forward to the point where going into the next couple games, we don't have to worry anymore about this offense, where it just kind of it's almost, I guess the question is, do you think this offense could just flip a switch and be a good offense?
Right. It's hard to say that we can be an elite offense. I don't think I can confidently make that statement. We're only going to see better defenses, especially after these 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right here, it's going to get really, really tough.
Yeah.
But what we do have is an eraser. Yeah. And when you have an eraser at the helm, taking the snaps, you can freely do a lot of things, which is why it's so frustrating seeing what we've done so far. On offense, a lot of his stuff has been purely just, it's collapsed on him.
Yeah.
And somehow he's gotten out of 2 sacks that should have happened. And we're running down the field. All right, now explosive plays are happening. We really haven't seen the dial it up, The first drive against Virginia Tech, obviously it's scripted, it's the best looking drive we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything close to a flow like that since that drive.
We didn't even get that against South Carolina State. I think we deferred.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I think about a lot. If we win the toss against Vandy, do we receive the ball just so we can get ourselves into another script? Because our first drive against South Carolina State, I think we were inside our own 10. Mm-hmm. Do we receive the ball just so we can kind of our first drive, we're going to come out, we're going to have the ball on the 25-yard line?
Yeah, and these are conversations I've had kind of back and forth with coaches as to why you defer.
Yeah.
And the popular answer is you just never know when you need that extra possession.
Is it an extra possession, though?
Exactly. Then why not start with the ball?
I'll take my extra possession right now.
Right now, let's start with it. So that is my back answer to that.
Yeah.
So don't really know. The only thing is that if you luck up and you end up getting the ball at the end of half, right? So that's what you bank on.
Yeah. I love a 2-for-1, a 2. I love having that opportunity. But with this South Carolina offense, I would love another scripted drive where we just punch Vanderbilt in the mouth.
For sure.
So,
and, it's something as a coordinator, which I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
But it's to have multiple planned openers.
Yeah.
And then how do we want to go against, how do we want to go off these next three plays coming off this opener? And it also entirely, relies on the success of that opener. So say we go out there, Lenore makes a bad read, and we get stuck in second 11, or second 10, well, that changes the whole drive.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. There's so many dynamics that go into it, and it's so easy to blame this person or this person. But the fact of the matter is that we're not executing on offense.
We're not. No, it doesn't matter what play you call if you mess it up anyways.
So we don't know if it's plays, we don't know if it's players, we don't know if it's the line not getting calls. But what we do know is that the offense has to get better.
Absolutely. It has to get better or else Saturday's going to be really scary. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and put our necks on the line.
Yep.
Let's pick this ball game. South Carolina minus 5.5 point favorite. We're at home.
Yeah.
7:45 kickoff. It's going to be the best atmosphere that we've had in quite some time. I know SC State had 21,000 student ticket requests. I don't know if the official numbers come out yet for Vanderbilt. I assume it's going to be at least that many, if not more. Obviously, they're not going to be able to fit them all in the stadium, but it's sold out. There's going to be 80,000 people going nuts for this ball game.
Absolutely.
Vanderbilt has not seen an atmosphere like this season. They went to Lane Stadium, which is cool. But what do you? So let's go ahead. Let's pick it. Who do you think is going to win this ball game? Straight up. You don't have to take no spread or no spread.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about the spread.
Yeah.
Straight up, who's going to win?
All right. I got the Gamecocks. I got South Carolina. And
you can throw out a score.
Yeah. I'm confident. Okay.
Yeah.
I got a 35-17. But I got two takeaways from the defense.
Two takeaways.
And I think we're going to get the ball in plus territory.
Okay.
And it's going to make it a lot easier for the offense where they don't have to be that explosive. So I got Pavia giving it to us twice.
Okay.
They are coming into an atmosphere that's, unbelievable. Now, he's been there. He's played Alabama.
Yeah.
He's played those guys. He had the luxury of playing them at home.
Playing them at home.
Right. Under the lights at Williams-Brice Stadium with a sandstorm going on everywhere. You can play it over the speakers all you want.
Yeah, it's different.
It will never, ever be like seeing those towels waving around the stadium. So I think they're in for a shock. They're going to be a little starstruck coming into it. I think we're going to jump on them and they're going to give it away. 35-17 Gamecocks.
This has been a game that has had me nervous since Virginia Tech. I've looked for it. I'm like, you know what? This doesn't feel. I don't feel good about this game.
Yeah.
And looking down the road, which we're about to do, there's a lot of games that I just don't feel great about for the Gamecocks.
Oh yeah.
But what I do feel good about is Vanderbilt's record on the road. So their last road win came against Auburn last year. It's not a great football team. They had to go to Auburn, to Kentucky, were their two road wins last year, and then they went to Georgia State last year and lost.
Man.
So 2 wins on the road last year. They're against Auburn and Kentucky.
Yep.
This is that program. They just left Lane Stadium, which people hype up as a great atmosphere, and it is. It's a good atmosphere for the run out.
Right.
I don't know if it's a good atmosphere for 4 quarters. I don't want to hype up the impact of what fans can have. They can only, the 80,000 fans aren't going to go out there and put a touchdown on the board for you,
of course.
But they do rattle some things.
Yeah.
I think the Gamecocks will win.
Okay.
I'm not going to go as far as 35-17.
Okay.
I don't think we'll score 35 points.
Okay.
Not without help from our special teams. I'll go on record. I'll put this out there. Vicari Swain will not return a punt this week. He might not he might not actually physically get the chance to return a punt.
Yeah.
But I think the streak stops this week. So no special teams touchdown. I'm not going to predict a defensive touchdown. I think we'll win the game 21-10.
Okay.
I think we'll give up 1 touchdown, a field goal, and I think we'll find a way to get in the end zone 3 times. So I think it'll be low scoring. I think our defense will carry us to a win. And at the end of the day, Vanderbilt and Clark Lee have come a long way, and they're gonna go up. They're gonna have some peaks here.
Yeah.
They're going in the right direction. But they are not quite at the we can walk out of Williams-Brice Stadium with a win. All right, so give me the Gamecocks 21-10. You have them 35-17.
Yep.
Fingers crossed. I'll take either one. If we win it 70-69, or if we win it 3-0,
I'll take 2-0.
I'll take whatever I can get in this one. So, real excited for this one. Vanderbilt's a heavy pick this week, real popular pick.
How about that?
But it is what it is. I mean, we don't look good. They're hot right now. They haven't played much of anybody. But they played Virginia Tech, which a common opponent. Last year they played Alabama before we played them, and then we had played Alabama, and we didn't beat Alabama, and they did, and then we beat them. So transitive property doesn't always apply. So
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And to say that we lose this game, I wouldn't. It's not like that would not shock my system.
no,
I can understand where that would come from, especially with the way we're playing.
there.
If we give up too many explosive plays on defense with no flow on offense, it could get bad quickly.
Yeah, there's a loss out there for South. There are many simulations out there where South Carolina loses this Saturday. But I don't think
I just don't think it's happening on this timeline.
No, this time in the sacred timeline of South Carolina football, I don't think we lose the Vanderbilt this Saturday. So now that we've done that prediction,
there we go.
Have 2 weeks of intel.
Oh yeah,
and this may become a running thing where we update this every week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pick the rest of the season real quick.
Let's do it.
Let's go through obviously we picked Vandy, so let's go through the remaining 9. According to us, we're going to beat Vandy. We have to go to top 25 in Missouri. By the way, we have 9 games left to pick on this list.
Yep.
7 of them are against ranked ball clubs.
Absolutely.
It's a tough schedule.
Absolutely.
We go to number 25 Missouri, who will probably be ranked higher.
Yep.
Who do you think wins that ball game?
So I do have us in that one.
I take us in that
one.
The
Battle of Columbia continues to be electric and stressful.
Yeah.
For both squads, but I do think that it's our game. I think as far as the dynamics and athleticism of that game goes, I think we have the upper hand. We have the edge. I have the Gamecocks pulling that one off.
I think so as well. Bro Perbula has looked really good. That's something I was not counting on. I thought Vanderbilt or Missouri was going to be a game that we would win pretty comfortably, but now it's going to be a sweat. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a game that we look down the line and be like, that's a resume booster for sure. So I'll take the Gamecocks and the other Columbia nervously.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, 27th, we come home versus Kentucky.
Yeah.
That's a win. I think Kentucky's, I don't want to say they're the worst team in the SEC,
but they might.
Somebody's got to be.
Yeah.
And, you used to just be able to circle Vanderbilt. We talked about them all day. It's not them anymore.
It's not Vanderbilt.
Mississippi State was last year. They had a great win over Arizona State. It could be Kentucky, and that may be one that comes back, a trap game.
Yeah. It very well could be a trap game. I was going to say that too because, they're going to be battle tested. They just came off an incredible, fighting effort against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And
lost by 7.
Yeah, just didn't pull it out. There at the end, they had an onside kick, to get the ball back.
Yeah.
So they're scrappy.
That'll be off a bye week for them as well.
Yeah, but they have a quarterback issue.
They do.
So they have a problem with quarterback, which does not bode well when we have a defensive line like we have. So I am comfortable picking the Gamecocks. Sir.
Yep. All right. I'll take the Gamecocks in that one as well, which by our mark will get us to 5-0 going into a bye week, which I have said I think we'll be 5-0 going into the bye week.
Right.
If you line them all up in a parlay, you're going to get plus odds on that. So odds are we're not going to be.
Yeah.
But if I'm going game by game, give me Gamecocks to go 5-0 into the bye week.
Okay.
That sends us what is going to be, that would be at that point, college game day in the Bayou. Going to LSU. They are at the moment a top 3 team. They're ranked number 3 in college football.
Mm-hmm.
They have Florida, some team that I don't even recognize their logo, Southeastern Louisiana, and Ole Miss before they get to us. So I'd expect them to still be undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe number 1 in the country.
Yep.
If we're 5-0, we're going to be top 7 to 5 team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest game in South Carolina's recent history.
Yeah.
Going to the Bayou for it's a flex time slot. They're not going to not put that prime time at night.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you think we could leave the Bayou 6-0 with a night game win in Death Valley?
This is what I'm gonna say. Okay. And I'll be able to cover this base as we continue through the schedule where we're gonna make up for it.
Yeah.
Okay. But I have us winning in Death Valley. I have Lenore Sellers proving his Heisman candidacy.
Okay.
It's going to be a game that's looked back on.
Yeah.
This is why he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. This is why he's the first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
We're coming off a bye week where it's extra scripting.
Yeah.
Okay. It's extra looks. So the bye week is going to be huge for our offense going into that game.
I thought about this game so much. We're not coming off a bye. We are coming off a bye week.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that at all. I have the Gamecocks losing that game.
Yeah, and that's very, very, very likely. I don't hate that at all.
I would put it And I may feel different at the time. Like I said, we're gonna redo this every week.
Yep.
At like 85-15.
Mhm.
Like I don't think we win this game. It's so hard to go to Death Valley and win. The last time I got this excited about going to Death Valley, 2012. We wore the battle gray uniforms, and we almost had it.
Yep.
And it just slipped through our fingers, and it was a heartbreaker.
I'll tell you what else goes in my thought process.
Yeah.
The absolute heartbreak that we had against LSU this past year, is going to be unfortunately, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be on the walls everywhere. We thought we were cheated. We felt cheated.
I go as far as to say we were.
Go as far as to say we were cheated.
Yeah.
Out the game. We really dropped that one. It kept us out the playoffs. This game was going to mean so much to the Carolina Gamecocks going in there. Off a bye week tends to hurt teams, but when it comes to our offense and the way we need to plan this thing out, it's going to help us tremendously. I got the Gamecocks in Death Valley.
If that sent us to 6-0, that would be the greatest win in South Carolina football history. I would go as far as to say that would be over Alabama. I think that would be number one. So hopefully we get a chance. That's all I want. Don't give me a guaranteed win in that game. Just give me a chance for it.
A chance. Well, we'll have one.
I hope so. All right, the next week's a big game for you. Home game on your birthday versus your boys.
Yep.
You are. We both have secret football teams that we pull for.
Right.
Yours is Oklahoma.
It is,
and they get to come to Williams-Brice Stadium for. Is that the first time ever?
That's a great question.
The first time in our lifetimes for sure.
Yep, and I'm gonna double check that.
We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out before we get done picking it. Number 13, Oklahoma. John Mateer looks like a dog.
Yep, and I was gonna go ahead and tell you that this is where we make it up. I think we dropped. We think we dropped the very next game to Oklahoma at home.
Okay, is there a little bit of bias in that pick?
There's no bias in that pick.
You are a Gamecock.
I'm a Gamecock, right?
You're a Gamecock.
I think that the Oklahoma offense is back to Oklahoma offense, and I think it's very problematic for our back end.
Yeah.
So John Mateer is not only a gunslinger, but he can move.
Yeah.
Which, if he's able to bypass that first rush against Stewart, we kind of sell out with him being able to get back there.
Yeah.
And if he's able to avoid that and kind of even get to the back of his drop and hitch into stuff, he's going to find guys open. So
yeah, very possible. I'll still take the Gamecocks to win this game because I don't think they're as back as they think they are.
Sure.
Because a win over Michigan does not mean necessarily what I think it means. I don't think Michigan's as great. I think they're very overrated.
Sure.
So I don't want to buy too much in their win over Michigan.
There you go.
When it comes time to pick that game the week of, they'll be coming off a game versus Texas. They'll be coming off the Red River rivalry.
The Red River rivalry.
Which could be an emotional pitfall for them, depending on how that game goes. Sure. But if they beat them, it's just we're very overlookable in that spot unless we are like you say, if we're 6-0 going into that game, we're not overlookable.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be
number one.
I really don't think
I think we'll be ranked number one in the country.
From now to the end of the season, I don't think we'll be overlookable anymore with who we got at the helm.
That's also the State Fair game. How about that? We didn't get one of those last year. Man. So maybe that counts as something too, a little State Fair magic. I'll take the Gamecocks to beat the Sooners, but not because the Sooners. I think that's just that'll be our bounce back game. Yeah. Have us losing LSU. That'll be a staple win for us because the Sooners, I do think they'll beat Texas. I think they might beat Texas. Horns down. I'll take John Mateer over Arch Manning right now.
Without a doubt.
So that's going to be a fun game. Another probably top 10 matchup, even if we lose LSU. So that'd be real fun. And another game. They might not be ranked when they get to South Carolina. The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah,
it's a whole different. It feels like we're living in an alternate universe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've got to play Georgia. They've got to play Mizzou. They've got to play Tennessee before they get to us. They've got to play Vandy.
Yeah.
At Vandy. Oh no, I'm sorry. They have to go to Georgia. They have to go to Missouri, but they get Vandy at home. I mean, I can see them losing any of those 4 games. Like, what world do we live in where I'm looking at the rest of our schedule and I'm like, you know what? Alabama's a game I can pick, and I think the Gamecocks will win it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like 60% on that one. That's one of the higher percentages I feel on the rest of this list. Yeah. I think the Gamecocks, it's homecoming. I think the Gamecocks beat Alabama on homecoming.
Yeah, I agree. It is super scary because they, they're going to have the athletes.
No,
they can snap it on at any time.
Yeah.
But just the way things are going, I do have the Gamecocks. Now I have them in a close one.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
But again, that is going to be a last year fueled game from what happened this past season.
That one was not stolen from us, from anybody but ourselves.
Right.
But that's a game you look back on.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have won that ball game.
Exactly. So
And Alabama.
right.
So there's a world where we are 7-0 in that game. We are ranked number 1 in the country, hosting Alabama it's not too far from the standard deviation.
Yeah.
Even if we both have us going 6-1 leading into that game, and 7-1 coming out of it.
Right.
Which takes us to a trip to the Grove to take on Ole Miss on November 1st.
Yeah.
That is a game that I don't care how much they've changed. They don't have Jackson Dart back there at quarterback.
Yeah.
They're still a good ball club.
They are.
They still have Lane Kiffin calling plays. Lane Kiffin is one of my favorite head coaches in football, just because of how brash he is. But he is also a genius and has always had South Carolina's number. I don't think we win that ball game.
That was going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. Now, watching this showing that Ole Miss had against Kentucky,
yeah,
makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah,
but we also had our first half against South Carolina State. So, give me the Gamecocks.
Okay.
At Ole Miss.
All right.
That is another one that, guess what? Fueled from last season.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a bounce back emotionally.
Yeah.
For us.
So you have us. You have us revenging all 3 losses from last year.
I do.
All right.
And I have us. Yeah.
At 8-1.
Yeah, we'll keep going.
Yeah, you have us at 8-1 right now. I have us at 7-2. This is based off what we know through 2 weeks.
Sure.
About all these teams.
Yeah.
After that, we go a bye week, followed by a trip to Aggie Land, to Kyle Field in Texas A&M. That is a game as tough as the trip to Aggie Land is. I think the Gamecocks win that game because I just don't think Texas A&M they're ranked number 16 in the country right now. I don't think by the time they get to us, that'll be that intimidating of an environment or that intimidating of a team to play.
Yeah.
I think that, and it may just be, what we did to them last year.
Right.
But I feel pretty good that we are a better football team than Texas A&M right now, even through what we've seen through 2 weeks. This is still a little bit of projecting. I do project a little bit of upswing for this offense.
Yeah. And I do certainly hope so.
Yeah.
And I feel that way. I feel like this bye week is going to come back to hurt us.
Yeah.
I think we dropped this one in College Station.
So we're back. We both think now, with that loss, we're both have us sitting 8-2.
Yep.
With 2 to spare.
Yep.
Coastal Carolina's next. Shots up, but not for that one.
Not for that one.
No, there was a time where if we played each other, I would have picked the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers back when Grayson McCall was running wild down at the beach.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who. I think Perry Orth was running wild in our backfield. Dog, love Perry Orth. It wasn't even Perry Orth. It would have been
McElwain,
Scarnecchia, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. There was a time where it was real,
dicey.
Real dicey South Carolina football team. Coastal Carolina, I think, would have taken us. But not this South Carolina football team. I think Coastal Carolina gets probably what people thought we were going to give to South Carolina State. I think we'll be really rolling to get to 9-2 there.
Yeah.
And then that brings the Clemson Tigers to town. That is a game. If we are sitting at 9-2, that game will be, for us at least, to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think a 10-2 South Carolina football team gets into the playoffs. 9-3 with a loss to Clemson and whichever, depending on who you believe, me or Bryce.
Yeah.
Who we lose to, I don't think 9-3 does the job again.
Right.
So that would be electric. 12 noon kickoff, which is wild. We already know that. I feel comfortable picking the Gamecocks at this moment to beat the Tigers.
Yeah, and I'm gonna piggyback right off of you.
Yeah.
I got the Gamecocks, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I believe we have a Taj Boyd curse at quarterback for the Clemson Tigers to where they're going to play good. Yeah. They're going to be a really good football team, and they're going to struggle against the Gamecocks.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik, he has beaten the Gamecocks, but he has never played good against the Gamecocks.
Right.
He has never thrown a touchdown against us. I don't even know if he's gone for any real stats against us. He struggles against teams that are good. And I just don't. I mean, their football season could be 10-1, just because how their schedule runs out.
Yep.
We'll add an additional pick. I mean, I'm gonna put some bread on Georgia Tech money line this weekend against Clemson. Like, I just don't think that their season's gonna go the way they want.
Right.
But they're in the ACC, so like even they could be bad and still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
This game's not gonna affect their playoff run.
Right.
But it will affect ours. So it may be a game where, on top of it being a rivalry, it just carries more weight for us and it could be a problem. But through 2 games, I have us going 10-2, with the 2 losses being LSU and Ole Miss.
And I have the Carolina Gamecocks going 10-2.
Yeah.
With our 2 losses coming to Oklahoma City. The Oklahoma Sooners.
Shea and Gillis-Alexander.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Oklahoma Sooners and Texas A&M Aggies.
Yeah. So, all right. We will do that. We'll probably do that every week, just as we procure more information on every team on our schedule.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun to kind of. I hate when people do preseason predictions and just kind of leave them and come back to them. So we'll just update ours every week.
There you go.
And put that out of the clip. So, all right, that wraps it up for this episode. That was our South Carolina State preview or review, our Vanderbilt preview, followed by our rest of season preview. So, to recap the Vanderbilt preview, since this is our Vanderbilt week pod.
That's right.
South Carolina Gamecocks, I think, will beat Vanderbilt 21-10 in a defensive battle where the offense makes slight improvements in the run game, and Lenore Sellers puts on the Superman cape when needed to get us across the line.
Yeah, and I have South Carolina Gamecocks winning as well. I have it going 35-17 with a lot of help from the defense. I think we get the ball in plus territory more than once to where we're able to work with a short field. And I think we hit a couple explosives to find the end zone. So,
God, I'd love to see that.
35-17 Gamecocks.
All right, that's it for this pod. Please drop a like and a follow if you enjoyed the content. Stick around for more. If you're going to the game Saturday, slide. We're going to be there. We'll be tailgating. So we're at every single game. Go Gamecocks.
Go Gamecocks.